Good morning, friends. Another Tuesday, another episode of Nadya's Identity Files. And today I have all kinds of awesomeness in store for you. You just wait. The weather is doing the weird flip-floppy things again, but that's not a really big surprise. It's in the 80s on the East Coast today. I got a text message from my mom yesterday that it was 86 degrees. And even though it wasn't cold yesterday, it was just definitely at least 15 degrees below that. So that's a little confusing. I think we're having a national weather identity crisis, if you will. But for the most part, it's been pretty pleasant out here. Spring is definitely upon us. And, I think it's safe to say that these temperature fluctuations are a result of global warming, right? Right. I know you all out there agree, but if you don't, an interesting article has been pointing to the idea that depending on what side of the global warming issue you stand upon, that directly relates to your political affiliation, which I would say yes and no. I think it's kind of unfair to say that you're either on one side or another. Of the issue, yes, but in terms of being on one side of the political spectrum or the other, either a Democrat or Republican. That's what this article was saying. But, I've had this conversation about the fact that binaries pervade everything in this country, so I suppose that's no surprise. In any event, global warming, in my opinion, not even in my opinion, my knowledge and assessment of the facts says that global warming is a big reality, and it's crushing. It could potentially be devastating. It's already changing so many things, and a lot is going to be problematic if nothing is done to stop it. And with our current administration, I am fearful of what's in the future. But I think that's a little too grim to start the episode with. So I just want to keep on the fact that yes, even though we're not as warm right now on the East Coast, it is really pretty outside. And with spring, there's also an opportunity to go outside more, exercise more, being more involved in fitness and sports. And that's what this episode is about today. Not about warm weather and exercise, not quite anyway, but about looking at the impacts of being involved in fitness and sports and athletics and how that can contribute to the formation of one's identity, and looking at also the societal implications of involvement in sports, fitness, athletics on identity more collectively. I think that it's safe to say that a lot of people, probably thousands, if not millions, have some sort of real hardcore alignment with sports. And I'm one of the most clueless people in terms of sports and athletics in this whole world, probably. I'm sure that when I sit down with my guest today, that's going to come out quite a bit. I go running, I ride the elliptical machine, I'm a hiker, but if someone asks me what sports team is doing what, or who's playing who, or what's happening with the NBA basketball season, I would be I don't know, let me Google it. Literally yesterday when I was doing some investigation for and research for today's episode, I was you know what? Let me see the length of the basketball seasons, okay? And I had no idea that it was October to June. I felt so clueless and naive, but that's why I love having episodes of the show where I'm illuminated by how people find their identities in these certain activities that are so popular, but to me, I just can't get on that wagon. I just don't understand. I do understand, but it just hasn't been my experience. So today, we're going to sit down with two very special guests. First, I'll be speaking with retired NBA player Kenyon Glover, whose love for sports has remained a very influential part of his life. Today, Kenyon is a serial entrepreneur, media mogul, actor, model, TV host, producer, philanthropist, activist, motivational speaker. I probably have left out at least 3 or 4 things that he does. So I'm super psyched to talk with him and learn about his journey in sports, in and out of sports, and how that life has contributed to where he is right now. Because even if we're not directly involved in something, I think that passion never goes away. And right after I speak with Kenyon, I'll have the pleasure of speaking with fitness model, actor, and activist Damaris Chambers. And I almost butchered her name, and I would have had her slap me across the face when she comes on if I had, but I think I got it. And she has a huge passion for breaking disordered eating and healing people's relationships with food through positive images and activism. She is a body positive activist, so I'm absolutely looking forward to chatting with her about her work. And then obviously at the end, we will have our roundtable conversation to really dig into these issues further. But first, I have to do a quick dose of identity news, right? It wouldn't be Nadya's Identity Files without identity news. So first, I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in Syria. I'm by no means an expert on world issues, but I have been paying very close attention to what's happening as much as I can, as much as what we are receiving in mainstream media. And I think it's safe to say that our world is really wrought with turbulence at the present time. I mean, unless you have completely tuned out international news, you're likely aware of the unrest in war-torn Syria, including the recent chemical attack and controversial retaliatory missile strike launched by President Trump. Well, since that action, people on either side have been making a lot of noise and sounding out their opinions. Obviously, on the right, for the most part, Trump is receiving praise for putting Syria in their place, if you will. On the opposite end of the spectrum, there's major concern about Trump having avoided congressional approval and acting rashly, and thus setting a precedent for a very militaristic and impulsive United States. In my opinion, I think that this could lead to potentially World War III, in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm just a girl on a show on the Hollywood and Vine, right? But that is my personal opinion, and I'm absolutely concerned about what's happening right now. And also, in my opinion, what is not being discussed enough is the future for Syrian refugees. I mean, what's next? The identity of the Syrian people really seems to hinge upon the directions that are taken by world leaders, including the United States. So, and in my opinion, it really does seem that the current administration continues to have no real interest in helping these people, but instead wants to have an excuse to move forward with launching missiles. But of course, on his side of the camp, people are praising him. So we can only keep our eyes and ears open for what's next. On a techier note, I want to talk about identity management software, which that's something I'm not too familiar with, but I'm becoming a little more in the know about. According to TechCrunch, IMS provider Okta, that's OKTA, seeks to raise a huge amount of money, $187 million with IPO pricing. And Okta's business specializes in identity management software, which, if I'm going to distill it down to the most basic definition, identity management involves defining what users can do on the internet and within a larger business network, right? And because cloud technology is on the rise, identity management software in turn is on the rise. On a still techie note, yesterday I had the pleasure of speaking with the co-founder of a really cool new messaging app called Exactly Me. It's actually exactly.me, which uses predictive technology and people's photo opinions to serve as the window into others' cultures and international friendships. For me, the reason I wanted to touch about this app, because it really shows a shift in kind of our thinking and how we are self-identifying and how we're using images and curated content to create our larger identities and then connect with people who have the similar leanings. And again, using those visual aids, if you will, to connect with each other. So it's really cool. I'm having fun with it. You get to make a little like stack of your own photos and then write little captions about how much of a you or not it is. So I would check it out. It's available in the Apple Store, not yet in Google Play, but it will be in Google Play in the next few months, I believe. So when we come back, I will be sitting down with Kenyon to talk about identity and athletics and sports, and I'm sure that he's going to be educating me on a lot of issues and ideas and thoughts that I have no idea about. Again, I am completely naive when it comes to that world, but I still find it fascinating, and I'm wowed by how disciplined most athletes are. And I think that at a young age, having that discipline and that passion can really make waves, positive waves in multiple areas of life. Right after him, I'll be chatting with Damaris, and then we will have our roundtable conversation. Stay tuned.